Okay, grade 4, we are back for math, and today's lesson is called Totals and Equations. So, in Monday's lesson when we did not, Friday's lesson when we did not know what a value of a number was, we put a box in that place. Often in our math books we've had just a blank when we didn't know what the number was. On Friday we had a box. But instead of a box, we could use other things like, could say, a heart. We don't know what the heart is. Or we could say a smiley face. We don't know what it is. Or we could use a question mark. Question mark plus 5 equals 8. We're not sure what it is. Or even mathematicians have used letters of the alphabet. So they would say A plus 5 equals 8. We don't know what that is. So we don't always have to put a blank there. We don't have to put a box. We can put anything in that spot to say that is the number that we don't know. So they could say Z plus 5 equals 8. Or you could say T plus 5 equals 8. Or you could say M plus 5 equals 8. It still all means the same thing, this thing that is the number we don't know. It's just like a blank that we've had in math books all the way up to this point in grade 1, 2, 3, and up to this point in grade 4. So what we're working on is algebra, where they're going to use letters instead of a blank. That's all that is. So what they would like us to do is to rewrite these equations using a W instead of the box to represent the unknown numbers. So if this was mine, I had to use a W instead of the box. I would say W equals 4 times 10. I would say W equals 4 plus 9. I would say 48 divided by 8 equals W. W equals 27 minus 23. 55 equals W times 5. And W plus 2 equals 14. So all you did was change the box to a letter. Means exactly the same thing. So here in the bottom they say they would like you to solve what is the letter in the problem. And I'll get the rest of it here so that you can pause it and see if you can figure out number 2. What does the letter represent? So pause, figure it out. Okay, you are back. So here I am going to say that 5 times what equals 25? 5 times 5. I hope that you got that. 5 times 5. Here, 6 times 3 equals 18. 45 divided by something equals 9. 45 divided by 5 equals 9. What times 3 equals 15? 5 times 3 equals 15. What number, when I divide it by 2, am I left with 8? 16. And what is 21 divided by 3? It equals W, and W is 7. So I hope you were able to get those answers as well when you figured it out. So now I want you to look at all these questions in 1 and 2, and this is what we have to ask ourselves. Which questions have the unknown number on a side by itself? So when we look at where's that letter, is it on a side by itself or is it not on a side by itself? So we want to look at the ones that have it on a side by itself. So would you say this one, number 1A, does it have the letter on its side by itself? Yes, it does. The W is there on one side of the equal sign. It's not with another number. What about B? You're right, that W is on the side by himself. What about C? Yes, that W is on the side by himself. What about D? Yep, that W is on the side by himself. What about E? No, that W is on the side with the 5. He's not by himself, so we cannot say he has the unknown number by itself. What about F? No, it's on the side with the 2 here. So that is not on a side by itself. What about 2A? Is that W on a side by itself? No, it is not. It's over here with the 5. What about in B? Is the A by itself? Yes. What about C? Is the P by itself? No, it's on that side with the other number. Is the M on the side by itself? No. Is the B on a side by itself? Nope. Here it was with the 3. Is the W here on a side by itself? Yes, it is. So good for you if you were able to see which ones were on a side by themselves. Good for you. Okay, so I have a story problem here. It says there are 5 green apples and 7 red apples. How many apples in total? Okay, so in this particular story problem, the number of green apples and the number of red apples are called parts. They are parts of the problem. We got one part which tells us that we got 5 green apples, and we have one part that tells us we have 7 red apples. So, and the word and the question and the total number of apples would be called the total. Or what is the whole? How many whole group of apples is there? So what is the total or the apple? So these are really important words that we're going to do a lot of work with today. The word parts, and those are the 2 pieces that will make up the total. So we have to get that into your mind, that the parts are the 2 pieces that are going to equal the total. Okay? So we're going to do a lot of work with that today, and hopefully you will be able to understand that by the end. So this has another question in it. So this one says, there are 5 green apples and W red apples. So when I see a W, that means we don't know what it is. There are 12 apples in total. How many red apples are there? So you're probably thinking, oh, I know. But we're not going to look for the answer right now. We're going to decide which are the parts and which is the total. Remember these 2 words we had over here, parts and total? We want to figure out what are the parts and what are the total. So the parts in this question are the green apples is one of the parts, and the other part is, so my green apples is a part, and my other part is the red apples. Well, that's my other part. How many in each part? So how many in the part of green apples? There are 5. How many in the part of red apples? Well, we don't know. That is W. Then, what is the total? So the total would be the number of the total apples, right? That would be our total, and our total number is 12. So we know that. So now we have to ask ourselves this question. What does the unknown number represent? Is it one of the parts or one of the totals? So the unknown number, is it a part of my parts or is it a part of my total? And I hope that you can see that we put it under parts. So it is a part of the part section. So if you know the total, which we do, and one of the parts, how are we going to figure out that other part? So if we know the total one part, how are we going to get the other part? So here, some of you who are very clever are going to go, we're going to subtract, of course. So what we're going to do is say part 1 equals total minus part 2, or we could say part 2 equals total minus part 1. So if I was to put that on the board, figure that out, I would say that part 1 would be 5. So I could say 5 equals total minus W. That doesn't really help me too much. If I say part 2, which I would say is the rat apples, so W equals the total minus the 5 apples. Now that I can figure out. Okay, so we are going to pause and you're going to come back for part 2 of this video.